Good.
Hang on. It's going. Yep, go.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching us. We are live right now. I have Matt Hilaudio with me, and then the one person that the internet has been trying to not let on the show. That technical difficulties have been trying their best to halt is
Especially.
Patrick.
Yep, and I'm definitely rocking some Wrestlemania gear tonight. So some
Well,
DX.
I have my WrestleMania 35
Oh,
football jersey from last
There
year.
you go.
nice.
Always
Well,
always wanted one of these.
yeah, they're uh, they're nice. I don't have one, um, but that's pretty cool that you guys are dressed for the occasion. I am not. I'm not. I'm somehow not surprised either. And
Me either.
I got you guys in that little box in the top right, and I don't know how to change it. So
Well, you're fine for.
yeah. So if anybody was wondering, Nick is the one that does handle pretty much everything with technology. I have shown that the last couple of weeks since we've had sort of a soft reboot. So I have added on Matt as sort of the
You know what?
person that puts this show on the air.
For some reason, I don't see it on YouTube. It's. Oh, never mind. Yeah, I see it. Okay, never mind. I was messing.
The MB show, if you will, with
MB.
special guest Patrick. So
Yeah.
let's just get right into it since we have 40 minutes or whatever from Zoom.
Oh, is it?
What were your guys' thoughts on night one? Matt, you want to start?
Yeah.
Actually, Patrick.
Patrick. Yeah, do Patrick.
I thought for what it was okay. I think that having the Boneyard match as the main event, I think was an interesting call. I definitely feel that Taker going over in the Boneyard match was very interesting. It was kind of a graveyard cemetery match without being that. I don't like how preceding that we had a less than 3 minute world title match.
Okay.
Literally less than 3 minutes, bell to bell.
Oh, yeah.
I just think that was very disappointing, and I'm wondering why that call was made. As far as the rest of the card goes, I liked KO and Rollins. I think that it was missing something from an interaction from Gronk there to restart the match. I don't like the fact that Rollins and KO basically made it on themselves to restart the match.
That's fair.
Everything else, I think the women's tag titles changing hands, that needed to be done because the Kabuki Warriors were not doing a damn thing with them. I think Sammy holding on to the IC belt was interesting. I think that was a good call. The surprise of the night to me was Becky going over on Shayna Baszler,
Right.
which I think that the rumor right now is that WWE is not going to be doing any production going forward after Mania this weekend. I don't know the truth to that, which I think is probably one of the reasons why Becky kept the belt. I think that if COVID-19 wasn't going on right now and this was Tampa Bay tonight, I think that Shayna goes over and Becky begins to chase. That's just where I'm at.
I think that's a good place to start. Was that title change right there, or not the title change? I mean the Becky keeping the belt over Shayna, who her name, she speaks for herself with her accolades and what she did. So yeah, Patrick, you gave us your feelings. Matt, what do you think about that?
I went in with I don't like basically low expectations, but I was intrigued about how everything was going to come off. I'm glad. I kind of say they did the USC kind of formula, and they put on the worst matches in the beginning.
Yeah,
and you didn't have to use those as a buffer because there's obviously no audience. So, I mean, at the same time, it's a kind of a bad way to start the show, but you get the crap out of the way and you build to the highlight, the main event, which in this case was the Boneyard match, which was well done. production wise. I enjoyed it. It seemed like the majority of people did. But at the same time, almost like with anything WWE does, you either really like it or you really hate it. But it seemed like just the Twitter reaction was mostly positive. I agree, Undertaker going over, he should have. Just basic heel and face dynamic would lead up to it. Goldberg and Strowman did not surprise me, either with the winner or how long it went, because Goldberg can only do so much. And I tweeted this out on my account. Just imagine if this was Roman Reigns. There would be like 20 spears in like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
There's no way Goldberg was going to do a jackhammer to Braun Strowman. He could barely do it to Bray Wyatt.
Right.
I'm just afraid going forward for Braun. But first, I'm glad he won, and I know he's been kind of not in the best situation. I think we can all agree with that. But I'm happy that he has a chance with the title, and maybe this COVID-19 is a blessing in disguise for him. Who knows? But I'm just worried that once all this dies down and Roman is back, Roman takes it off of him in the first title defense, which I don't want to see, because then that's just making Braun weaker than he already is at this point.
He becomes a transitional champion at that point.
Right. And I think he should have beaten Brock Lesnar back when he first faced him.
1,000% agree with you on that one.
Yeah. And because they had him built so well. He was organically over, and he lost to Brock, I think, twice? I don't think singles, but whatever. Which is unfortunate. What else happened? Yeah, Becky, I was shocked Becky won. But if they should do any shows moving forward, like the rumor is, makes sense in a way. I can see the logic, but that almost kind of like pushes Shayna down a little bit. I don't want to say buried, because we tend to use that too much.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah.
So we're getting a lot of interaction on Twitter for sure. Asked if anybody was surprised that Becky went over on Shayna. Twitter account is @the NB Show. So Christopher 3008 said, "Hell yes, was written in the stars for Shayna to win. I think it being at the PC changed things, but could be wrong." So I agree with that, and like you were saying, Matt and Patrick as well, the Performance Center has definitely changed a lot of the outcomes. Like I don't think it'll be out of the question if Brock Lesnar wins tonight, if he retains.
That I don't know, because they put out that WWE Chronicle thing.
Yeah.
And like all the hype for him, I don't think you can do that. And I think the situation's different with that, because with Brock, he's part-time, so he's not going to be here anyways. So being off for a little bit really, I guess, doesn't make a big of a difference in the case, except for in the case of like Becky Lynch and Shayna Baszler. They're here full time. So I think it's two different situations. I don't know. I hope Drew wins. He should win. It'd be stupid if he doesn't. Yeah.
What do you think, Patrick?
The way that you're building, I mean, when you think about it, you're having both Royal Rumble winners go tonight. You're having Drew challenging Lesnar, and you're having Charlotte challenging Rhea Ripley. I think my surprise of the night is going to be Rhea retaining. I think that with Shayna Baszler challenging, I mean, we don't have number one contenders matches anymore. The reason Reigns initially was put in this match at Mania was because he stepped up to Goldberg and said, "I'm next." Shayna Baszler, what did she do? She came out and attacked Becky, and then she won the Elimination Chamber. and then that's how she got her title match. Charlotte won the Royal Rumble. Drew McIntyre won the Royal Rumble. So that's how they got their matches. And recently in history, the Royal Rumble winners have not been winning the world titles at WrestleMania. Asuka didn't win the title from Charlotte when she won.
Shinsuke.
And Shinsuke didn't win the title from AJ when he won. So I think this, it's going to be very interesting tonight to see how both Royal Rumble winner title matches go. I think if my betting money is on Drew winning, and I think Rhea retains tonight. I think that's how I really think that both women tonight are retaining their titles. I don't see Bayley losing, and the only person I see Bayley losing to is Sasha to split them, but they don't need that right now. And I think Rhea retaining. If Charlotte wins, what does that do for Charlotte? Charlotte's on SmackDown. She's not going to jump to NXT like Finn Balor did.
Right. I think Rhea. I don't want to say has to go over, but in my opinion, has to go over. In a way, it helps because we can debate about Charlotte being pushed too far and whatnot, but Charlotte is that established star, and
yes.
Rhea going over Charlotte at WrestleMania, regardless of where it's at, puts Rhea on the map, elevates her, and I think Charlotte's good with putting Rhea over. I think that's what's going to happen. I expect it to be a good match. In terms of Bayley, they did tease. On SmackDown that like some. What's the word? Not feud, but
dissension in the ranks.
Yeah, between those two, Bayley and Sasha. So I can see Sasha winning, or something on the lines. If she doesn't get eliminated or doesn't win, she maybe gets eliminated by Bayley or somebody, since it's an elimination match, I believe.
It is. It's a fatal 5-way elimination.
Right. So if Bayley eliminates her, I see some form of either Sasha eliminates Bayley eliminates Sasha, or what have you. But I think there is a new champion as we leave, as WrestleMania closes on SmackDown side. That's what I feel like, because in my opinion, Bayley hasn't really done much with the title, and I like Bayley. It's just. I just want to see what happens when she doesn't have the title as a heel.
So let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Of I think it's 4 titles being defended tonight. Correct me if I'm wrong. Raw Tag, NXT Women's, SmackDown Women's, and WWE. You think we have, how many title changes do you think there are out of the 4? Drew winning notwithstanding, because I think we're all in agreement that Drew wins tonight. Brian?
I think you guys have convinced me. I think Drew will win. I think 1 title change.
I think 1. SmackDown. I think SmackDown changes. I think that's it. I think we get 2 out of the 4. With the Raw tag team, I just don't see why you would take it off of Street Profits this soon. Because they're over.
Correct.
They have a good gimmick. I love their gimmick.
Yeah, I do.
The
like
crowd loves them.
Street Profits are like the New Day in a sense that they don't need the belts to verify themselves to be over.
Right.
The belts to them right now are an addition to their characters.
But I think for their credibility right now, I think they can hold on to it for a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
Get some steam and not lose to somebody. Get that smoke. Because they just kind of threw Austin Theory in at the last second, obviously, with Andrade's rib injury. So I don't see him just putting the title on Austin Theory right off the bat. And if you saw Raw, was it this past week when and I forget, and I don't know if it came out whose fault it was, but oh my god, I can't think of his name. The dive off the top of the
Yeah,
Montez
I saw
Ford
that. Yeah.
that he landed and didn't.
Oh, that
I don't know
that
if that
looked
was
rough.
planned. Yeah, I don't know if that was.
That definitely looked rough though from the highlights that I
Yeah,
saw. I was just like, "Ooh, that's
yeah. I was sitting here watching it and I looked. I didn't see the move happen, and I was looking down and I just heard a big metal clank, and I looked up and I saw he was dead. I was like, wait, what happened?
So I wanted to go over some tweets here again at the NB show. If you want to tweet along and have your tweet read live. So Christopher Grim Pixels, we were talking about the titles and how Patrick believes that Rhea Ripley will retain. Christopher says that he thinks the original plan might have been for Charlotte to win and to be the biggest heel in the world on NXT for a few months, put over a couple of people like Bianca. But if there are no crowds, then there isn't a point of putting the belt on her. And then Patrick responded saying he agrees. So, that is a pretty logical explanation. And that's what I think they have to definitely take into account. Which is why, Matt, we discussed last week about this. Whenever all of this goes away and everything is back to normal or whatever the new normal is,
Yeah.
SummerSlam is going to really get a big kickback from all of this. And that's why that WWE and their shareholders and Vince especially, they had a conversation where they sat down and said, WrestleMania isn't going to be WrestleMania. So we have to save a couple of these career-defining moments because these people, just because this is at the Performance Center, these people still work as hard every single day as you would, that they had something completely happen out of their control.
Right.
So
SummerSlam becomes now the new WrestleMania this year. I think
for this year,
can
I
be,
would say that's a pretty safe bet.
For the money that WWE is saving, and I'll air quote that, for the production level and everything of WrestleMania this year by having it at the Performance Center, I think now when this is all said and done and the green light is clear, I think if everything is okay by, let's say, the middle of July, I think that maybe you reconsider doing SummerSlam in an outdoor venue versus an indoor venue. I know right now it's scheduled to be in Boston, so I don't know if you move that to like Fenway Park, even though that's going to potentially run into baseball season, or if you're looking to have it in an outdoor stadium, maybe have it, since Gronk is the host of WrestleMania, maybe he has connections behind the scenes with Vince and Robert Kraft, but maybe you move it to Gillette Stadium and
that would be interesting
at an outdoor venue there. I mean, we already have, we had the Royal Rumble this year in a baseball stadium. We were scheduled to have Mania at the Buccaneer Stadium. We're now having two of the major events in outdoor stadiums. Why don't we make it three?
I always thought that they should have SummerSlam maybe in a baseball stadium. I think this year I think it might be I think it might be too late because the logistics behind everything. I think there's more to it than I think I know with city stuff and the team. I think it might be.
I'm sure that there's like a lot of logistics. I think you're right, Matt. I think it's the fact of logistical planning and scheduling ahead of time. But
I would love to see SummerSlam like in a baseball stadium, because outside it's in the summer, it's nice and hot, it's warm. I think it makes sense.
The biggest party of the summer is how they always tagline it.
I always imagine it having it like at PNC Park here in Pittsburgh. I think it would be nice. It could just slightly biased, but I think a nice backdrop with the city in the back. I think just television wise, I think it would look great, like at night, putting on a show like that big outside in the open air. But besides that, I do agree, like you guys said, that SummerSlam this year is probably and should be bigger than usual, with everything going on. And I do feel bad about everybody's big moments,
Yeah.
especially like Drew and well, Shayna and
Yeah.
Becky, Kevin Owens, because I know he tweeted out he wanted to jump off the
Pirate
boat,
ship.
yeah, but
Yeah.
he jumped off the sign, which
And
which looked awesome.
that was amazing. I love the fact that he had a KO Mania 4 shirt on.
Yes, yeah,
I
I
have
love his.
something for you guys to chew on. Now, does WWE, do they give us a cookie here? Do they, because everybody is we're coming up now about on a month and a half of quarantining and just hearing about everything being awful. And there's a
Chris.
certain superstar that is contracted by Fox. You know, they love to say that to try to throw people off. But does WWE throw a cookie for us, the fans, and for everyone if they're not going to tape um, shows going forward? You know, do they bring out CM Punk? Does he cut a promo? Does he cut a promo and say, that he's coming back after everything's said and done? Does he call somebody out? Just because that honestly, that would be something I think that a lot of the media and the fans would eat up.
I don't think so.
No, I would have to see it to believe it. Um, if that were to happen, that is probably the best kept secret that they've ever done. Um, because there's reports that Vince doesn't want to work with CM Punk, at least right now. Um, it would it never happen? I don't know. Maybe a couple years down the road, depending how old Punk is right now and if he can still go. But I would highly doubt it. I would say no. I give it like a less than 1% chance of happening.
Patrick?
I would have to say it depends. I would say I could see it maybe happening in the next 2 years, but it depends on what happens with Vince. I think if Vince decides to step down, although that in and of itself is highly unlikely because I think he's going to run this company until he has until
until
with
he's
his
dead.
dying breath.
Yes.
But never say never in WWE. Did we ever think that Vince was going to buy WCW? No. Did we ever think that we would see Eric Bischoff or Paul Heyman on WWE TV at all? No. I mean, look at some of the things that WWE is famous for. I think you can never fully close the door on that because if Vince wasn't okay with Punk being on being on some sort of WWE media, right, he wouldn't be. I mean, that's face facts. I mean, granted, there's probably something in the Fox contract that Fox probably swooned and brown nosed Vince till the cows came home. Well, but I think that you at some point in time you have to say, okay, what are you truly okay with?
And I brought that up just going from a pure goodwill standpoint and how everybody needs something to sort of get everyone out of what the world that we're living in right now. And in my opinion, and it's probably wrong, but I don't think there are really any detractors to CM Punk, as there were, maybe whenever this all hit the fan, and that there was sides of CM Punk's being a baby as opposed to he did the right thing. So that was just my thought. I thought if there was ever a time to hold a secret, to want to release it now and get a bunch of positive press, get goodwill with your fans, which they are way, way, way slacking with that. You guys, Matt and Patrick especially, you have been there. You have been watching the product now more consecutively than I have, and I'm not afraid to admit that. So you guys have definitely taken your lumps. So I actually am out of all the WrestleManias, for this one to be derailed, considering who they built up and how it was all going to work out, it's definitely a bummer for all the wrestling fans everywhere.
Yeah,
because we were going to have a great show for sure.
Carrie Seam was going to come off that pirate ship. You know that for sure.
Yeah.
yeah.
Speaking of pirates, Chris Tesorio, CT 485.
I did see that. That's just funny.
Yeah, I just said his last name because he's an ass. So who knows if he didn't want his last name to be said anyway. But
whoa,
he said
whoa.
not even the Pirates want to be at PNC Park.
Okay, whoa. Can we blame? I can't really say anything because I technically work for them. But can you blame that comment on him from saying that?
No, you can't. I mean,
they want to be there. It's just what happens at the end of 9 innings.
You had Gerard Dyson come out and say to a reporter that there weren't any other offers on the table, and you have to take what you can get. That's what he said in his first press conference with the Pirates. So
yeah,
that's all you need to know about that. Let's go back and talk about the graveyard match, the boneyard match, whatever we're allowed to call it nowadays. Did that meet your guys' expectation, Patrick?
I didn't really have any sort of sense of how it was going to go. I figured it was just going to be a false count for all intents and purposes, it was a false count anywhere match. It was a buried alive match at a graveyard. I mean, that's pretty much what it was. I think the main difference between a boneyard match and a buried alive match is the fact that they have a plot in the arena, and it's basically a no DQ match. And then the only way to win is you throw your opponent into the grave, and then you pull the lever, and the dirt comes down on them. The boneyard match is just basically same thing as a buried alive match, but the venue is just different. I think that the production value was enormous. I think that was a really well done production last night, and I've noticed a lot on social media that everybody is saying that you have to thank Matt Hardy for that, and I think to a degree you definitely have to, because of his vision when he did the final deletion for WWE, and then when he did the deletion matches when he was a part of TNA/Impact. I think that lends a lot of credence to the production value of the boneyard match last night.
Mm-hmm.
I think the one thing that I found a little crazy as far as the continuity aspect goes was Taker in one of his promos recently said that he was going to unleash the unholy trinity. And then that got me thinking as far as what does that represent? Does that represent, Taker, Kane, and a third party? Does that represent Taker and his personas? Like what does that mean? I was thinking that, and this calls back to right before WrestleMania 20. He had that buried alive match with Vince McMahon, and then Kane cost Taker the match. They buried the American Badass gimmick, and then he came back at WrestleMania 20 as the Dead Man. I was thinking something similar was going to happen last night, where AJ throws the Badass Taker, or the Big Evil Taker, or whatever it was, into the grave. He comes back up, resurrected as the Phenom, and then he finishes the match off with AJ that way. But I'm not surprised that the match went the way it did.
They almost kind of did that when Taker was in the grave and AJ was about to put the dirt on him, and he just appears behind him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which I know that I can be a little gimmicky or hokey, whatever the word you want to come up with, and like for the sense of realism, obviously just threw realism out the window, obviously, and but it kind of beat my expectations, because I didn't think we were going to get this like cinema type of production, and which kind of blew my mind. And I think it was later posted on Twitter that Jeremy Borash had was working on this too, with behind the scenes. So like to that Matt Hardy thing, obviously he probably took some inspiration from that, and he kind of knows what he's doing. So that was pretty cool. I just liked how Undertaker just was during this. Just his whole attitude and what he was saying. And apparently when he I don't know how true this is, but I read something today that that when he like put his hand through the car window and got cut, that was like legit. And when
his reaction made it seem like it was legit, because he definitely punched through, and then you could see the blood on his upper forearm, and it definitely looked like it was legit.
But with WWE and obviously post production and everything being the way it is, I thought maybe they just you stop and then they put fake blood on his hand,
Mm-hmm.
But if it was legit, his response was how he said that. I busted out laughing, honest to God, because it was just perfect.
So Undertaker, old reliable. From what you guys are saying, and I think that Undertaker probably saved night one, just because of everything happening, no fans, wrestling. What wrestling has shown, I think, to people who are watching, who experiencing no fans, is that it could get a little bit boring watching people do like an organized dance with bumps and things like that. But like you guys were saying, with the production value of the Undertaker and Styles match, it did really just kind of put a whole cover over everything to kind of say, like, even with everything, even with the deck stacked against them, you put the Undertaker with another great worker in AJ Styles, that they're going to make money and that they're going to sell the match. I guess
one thing for me, as far as the Boneyard match goes, if COVID-19 wasn't running wild, right now, because it's WrestleMania season, we got to throw that in there.
There you go.
How would have this played in the live arena? Would we get like the reaction shots? Would we get just them showing just the Boneyard match like they did last night? I guess that's something to me, because I know that with Falls Count Anywhere matches, they go all over the arena. It spills into the backstage area. It goes into the crowd. I guess for me, would the crowd have been a super factor in this, because they wouldn't have had anything to glue their eyes to, with the exception of the TV monitors all over the stadium.
My question is, would they even have done this way? Would it just be a regular match if everything was all right?
I don't think so. I don't think we would have seen something like this had there been a normal show. I think what they did by making it theatrical, I think that was a reactionary move. And
it was the best thing to happen.
Studio. Yeah, they have WWE Films was bad in the beginning, terrible. But, and I'm talking about like those See No Evil movies, and not that those were bad, but they weren't. It's not The Rock or anything like that. But slowly but surely, they've starting to come out with some okay production value theatrical releases.
Are the people, I don't know, are the people that shot this last night the same people who make the movies? Is that two different divisions?
I'm just assuming that they are, because it's their property. So,
or they go through another like studio company who writes. I don't know how that. I just ask because I don't know how that works.
I wouldn't be surprised that if they haven't used the same guys that did Final Deletion between Matt Hardy deletion between Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt, because I think that was a lot of TNA guys, if I'm not mistaken.
They
Borash
still might
be on the payroll of WWE.
Where Jeremy Borash still works is working for WWE, and he was there because somebody like on Twitter posted a picture of them. Jeremy wasn't there, but he said the person who posted the tweet said he was there.
Yeah. From the kickoff night 2 kickoff show, just to let you guys know, the match, Liv Morgan versus Natalia. Liv Morgan picked up the victory.
Yeah, and I was kind of watching it as you guys were talking before, but that's why my head was down. But yeah, it's over. So we got 19 minutes, 18 minutes until
17 and change.
Yep.
Yeah, so
it's gonna be interesting.
So we had a pretty good night one, all things considered, with everything happening. Rob Gronkowski, a lot of people were giving him crap, but I want. Hold on. We need this to work. All right, we need it to work because.
So what we need to see tonight is two 24/7 title changes tonight. We need to see Gronk winning it from Mojo, and then R-Truth winning it from Gronk.
Yeah,
that's what I need to see tonight.
I want to see.
I'll take that.
I want to see Gronk take a enhancement talent, a security guard, if you will, who's like the size of Rey Mysterio, and Gronk spike him.
Oh God, dude, that's just the worst.
No,
you freaking kill him.
Yeah,
his finisher is going to be something around the spike. I think
He's gonna spike.
What did he do? What did he do in the Battle Royal a couple years ago?
Well, he did a tackle.
I want to say
he did like
yeah,
a spear
he did a tackle.
Yeah.
He's got chops. Gronk has chops, and he has.
Oh, I'm sure he does. But I mean, he hasn't been football training. I don't know what else he's been doing. He's been doing a lot of his entrepreneur type business stuff behind the scenes.
It'll be interesting what they do if they decide to. If he decides to jump 2 feet in and train and actually wrestle and talk, then you can be looking at, I mean, there are people that have. I don't want to make any crazy comparisons, but I'm just saying that, The Rock has made transitions, and Gronk is nowhere near Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
No.
But I'm saying, if you guys give him an opportunity, if you give him a chance, you can't write him off. Patrick, you especially, you being in Pat's Nation.
I'm a New England fan. The last couple seasons have been a roller coaster for me, and this off season has been it's going to be very interesting. The next when football resumes up, especially for me, a member of Patriot Nation. Unfortunately,
yes. Yep.
Yeah, I'm sure all the other 31 other teams feel really bad for you, Pat.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure they're all heartbroken. I'm sure, with the exception of Tampa Bay.
Welcome to the NFL.
Yep, exactly.
So
let me ask you guys this question. Obviously we're all in agreement that the Lesnar McIntyre finishes the night. That's the main event tonight.
Yeah, I don't see what would finish it.
With the runtime of night 1 going 3 hours, do we see a similar runtime tonight? Do we see 7 to 10 with maybe the championship match starting about like 9:25, 9:30 maybe?
I think it's going to be similar, just right around 3 hours.
Yeah,
I agree. With it being taped, they're able to curate that
they're able to manipulate it how they want.
Yeah, they can cut and paste out stuff.
So my other 2 questions. Sorry, Matt. What are my 2 other questions? What match kicks off night 2, and at what time do you think that the Firefly Funhouse match between Wyatt and Cena happens? I think the Raw tag team match starts the night, and I think that about maybe 8:15. Somewhere around there, I think about the halfway point of the night is when you have the Firefly Funhouse match.
If they do what they did yesterday and put the worst matches on first, then I can probably see like an Aleister Black or a Bobby Lashley or an Otis and Ziggler. One of those two. Yeah. Just to get the worst ones out of the way. That really don't have any story. Well, basically, it would be Aleister Black and Bobby Lashley, because Otis
Ziggler has
an interesting story.
2 months.
Yeah, and So
is that the best storyline that SmackDown has going right now?
I think so.
With the
Yeah,
exception of maybe
Best long term, yes.
yeah, because I
And
think that you can't really count Charlotte and Rhea as a SmackDown story. That would be more of an NXT story because it's the NXT Championship, the women's title.
isn't Charlotte on Raw?
Right, but they haven't they been back and oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Charlotte's on
No.
Raw.
it's hard to keep track if
It
they
is
have this brand
because
separation, then they have a draft, and then they
the
have
wild card
roles.
rule.
No.
So
We'll just call it the wild card rule because that's what they that's what they keep
No,
referring
I
to
think
it as.
Charlotte was always on. No, I think they've always done it that angle on Raw on Mondays. I think because on SmackDown it's just Bailey and Sasha. And,
So
excuse
what do
me.
we get from John Cena and the Fiend? Who goes over? Are
Oh,
you guys going to be happy? Is the
Wyatt
internet going to be
Wyatt has to
happy?
go over. He
Yes.
has to.
He
There's
has to.
no other way you can write this right now
I
because
feel like
Cena just comes back now for maybe 3 or 4 match appearances a year now,
Yep.
and Wyatt is there every day. Like they humongously dropped the ball with taking the title off of Bray Wyatt when they were in the Middle East.
Yep.
I didn't like the call. I understand why the call happened because the Saudis want what they want, but I think that you had something great going in Bray Wyatt, and you still do. However, I don't like this thing with John Cena should have happened in the fall. When you come around to January, what is your January to April build? Your January to April build is WrestleMania season. You go into the Royal Rumble. That is where you start your balls rolling, so to speak, for WrestleMania. You had Drew win the Rumble, you had Charlotte win the Rumble, you had all these other matches that were culminating at WrestleMania. The downtime for WWE right now, unfortunately, is now because everything is at the Performance Center. But in normal conditions, as soon as SummerSlam is over, you have September and October. That's when you have like your dead time. That's where you test things out. Survivor Series just writes itself because you're always going to have the 5-on-5 matches, and then December is kind of like a dead zone as well, and then you go back into January. From January to August is your, for lack of a better word, hot 7 months period in WWE where you really are expecting a lot from them. So I think that right now that this match, Wyatt has to go over, and as soon as this match is done, Wyatt has to reinsert himself in the title picture. He has to at some point in time.
Right. The one bad thing is if he goes back and gets the title somehow, then this whole obviously everything was for naught with Goldberg. Just like why take it off? But besides that, I do agree that Bray needs to win. Like why? What's the payoff with Cena winning?
right.
There's nothing. I expect this to be, hopefully, if done right, like creepy. With with the puppets and everything. A lot of just weird stuff happening, which it could be good. I hope it's good because it has a lot to live up to after last night. Yes, I think Bray needs to win. He has
Yeah,
to.
I think you brought up a good point, Patrick, that they made the mistake by having Bray Wyatt lose to Goldberg, and that caused a huge backdraft on everything WWE for that, and there were a lot of people angry, but they did what they did, so now he's going against Cena. So I think that him losing had in a very backwards way, and silver lining it. I think Bray losing to Goldberg did actually benefit his career because anytime you go through and because everybody will cherry pick WrestleMania, and who knows if so Bray would have been would have fought Braun, or who knows what the storyline would have been had he retained his title against Goldberg. But now he's getting Cena, and I agree with you guys. Since there's not a belt on the line, there is no reason for John Cena to win this match. It does not benefit me at all.
I think regardless of there's a bout on the line between the two, Cena should not win.
Yeah,
Because he's part time now. You have a good thing with Bray Wyatt, one of the most creative, unique things they've put out in a long time, and they kind of almost took the mystique away because of Goldberg. I was happy when he beat Seth at the other Saudi Arabia show, and then you just take it away from Goldberg from what couple spears in a non-jackhammer that defeats him, and Seth Rollins was pretty much threw everything at him in the kitchen, plus the kitchen sink at Hell in a Cell, and didn't beat him. It was a stoppage for whatever reason because of logic.
Welcome to WWE Logic 101, kids.
Which, by the way, we're all around the same age. So, has anybody been? Were either of you guys happy about Goldberg coming back again?
Originally, I was okay with. I mean, I was okay with it. To get those, one-off matches, and against Brock, it's okay. It's no big deal because it's Brock. He's Brock, if that makes sense. Yeah. He's not like a.
It sells itself. What say you, Patrick?
I think when Goldberg came back after The Rock went into his Hollywood mode, I think that was fine. But this time around to come back and be now a WWE Hall of Famer, that's fine. But quite honestly, I really am just dislike the fact that they're calling on all these Hall of Famers to come back into the ring, and they are relying on them now more than ever. I mean, Edge is the exception to the rule because he had to retire. He's been away for 9 years. But guys like Goldberg, who now are continuously going on, I mean, even the thing that I hate about the continuity about WWE right now is, let's look at Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels got retired at WrestleMania 24, or I'm sorry, 26. 20,
yeah.
And what did they do with him and Michaels? They reformed DX, and they had him at a Saudi show go against, the Brothers of Destruction. And all due respect, those are 4 old-timer guys that I don't need to see in a ring. Shawn Michaels and Triple H are backstage at NXT. That is where they're doing the best work. Kane is done being a full-timer. He's, doing his life as a mayor. Undertaker is doing what he does. He comes back now just for the WrestleMania appearance, for that paycheck. And then if they need him for the Middle East, that's what he does now. But I think they need to really start calling on the people from NXT to step up to the plate. And I love Survivor Series this year because it was all 3 brands. You intermixed all 3 brands beautifully. And I think now more than ever, you need to bring in NXT UK some more. I mean, they're only on the network, I believe.
Yep.
So bring people from that promotion over into regular NXT. Have a lot of cross branding between the two of them. Raw and SmackDown. I don't see enough long-term storylines for me to be okay with having to dive into the well for the Hall of Famers to come back. John Cena should not be back in any capacity right now. I mean, if you want to have these one-offs where we're announcing Hall of Famers, okay. Mm-hmm. But don't rely on the Hall of Famers right now to carry your product. That to me is just a bad look.
Patrick's just preaching to the choir because I believe every fan that has invested any type of money and time into WWE and their products agree 100% with what you said. So a couple quick things before we wrap up and hear your guys' final thoughts. Just a couple of tweets. Ian Terrell, I don't know how to, is E''IAN. So I'm assuming that's Ian. He believes that the tag titles will start the show.
I agree with that.
The answer to the question, does The Fiend go over on Cena? One man, Mize, said, not without buying him dinner first. So there's that. That's a good one. And Alan Schatz believes that Wyatt should go over on Cena. Jet Sat Junk believes Wyatt should go over on Cena. So that's just more the reason why it's not going to happen. So everybody needs to know that. Because that's just what WWE does, even though I agree with it should go over. But so first, out of 5 stars, what do you guys give night 1? And then what are some things you're excited about in 3 minutes for night 2? And what do you think altogether?
I'm gonna give it 3.5.
I'll agree with that. I'll give it 3.5.
3.5. I think it was an average show, up to until we had the Boneyard match that kind of gave it a little nudge. I mean, it wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. It was decent enough.
Patrick?
Yeah, I agree with Matt. I think that the Boneyard match saved. I think the highlights of night 1 were the triple threat ladder match.
Yeah.
I think that Morrison, Kofi, and I think it was Jimmy Uso. I think they did a really great job in that match. I think the finish was kind of ridiculous. I think KO Rollins was good. I think just from the continuity perspective of the restart, I think that needed a little bit of explaining. And then I think the Boneyard match, if we were scoring this, I would give the Boneyard match a 4. And then I think that brought up the average from everything else to a 3. I think the Boneyard match was really good. And I think that the performers tonight, I hope that they really bring it. I think the matches I'm looking forward to are the Firefly Funhouse match, the NXT women's match, and the WWE World Title match.
Yeah. And same with me, but add the Edge and Randy Orton Falls Count.
Yes.
Last man standing match.
Edge and Orton. Yes,
so
Edge and Orton.
I think they really stacked the show. I mean, at least on paper.
Mm-hmm.
This should be hopefully the best night. It should be good, and we're like 2 minutes away. So I can't wait. So hopefully it's a good show. I have some good expectations for tonight.
Yeah, and I'll go to you, Patrick, to close it out and where people can find you and everything like that.
I am on the socials, Twitter, at RatedPWF.
Nice.
I'm on Twitter at mhladio92. That's MHLADIO 92. And the channel we're on right now, shameless plug, is me and my friend John. We do this podcast every Saturday. It's called Matt and John Make a Podcast. Basic name, yeah, I know. We have a new episode every Saturday at 3. And then on Wednesdays after AEW and NXT, we try to do a live reaction show about those. So
you can't just name drop AEW on Wrestlemania weekend.
Yeah, I was about to say
I did.
Bad form.
I did.
That's messed up. How dare there be another company? I just wanted to touch on the Edge and Randy Orton. I think, in my opinion, that they got screwed the most out of this because that was going to be hot. Everybody's excited to see Edge, except for the director who missed the spear. So thank you guys for coming out. The technical difficulties. The show was on the fritz for a little bit, if you can imagine that.
Wah, wah, wah.
But we did finally get it. Patrick, you're finally back.
Yep.
Finally.
Thank you again for having me.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Next week, we will have Connor on. Connor Augustine. He's he ran the show's Twitter for a little bit during the Brass Ring Club period, which, we won't go into that.
Yeah, Warhood can stay retired.
Yeah, exactly. So, gentlemen, it was great talking to you, getting hyped up, and everybody that's watching, thank you, and let's all enjoy this.
Yep.
All right.